guys, welcome to Clockwork Noodles for another breakdown of Shadow's House episode number 7. Very excited to get going on this episode in particular because there's so much information that has been given. It being a big old mystery and lots of little details that have been hidden or skipped over because the characters at this point don't know. It's episodes like this that actually do me a big world of good because I start to understand the world better and I start to realise that there's a lot more clever things going on. Before we get going, make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. The midway review is now up for your viewing pleasure where I have crowned my top 3 OPs, EDs and anime. What is my top anime so far? Is Shadow's House on any of my lists? Make sure you head on over and give that a little watch. We are also trying to hit 1k subscribers by the end of the year. Can you guys help me make it a reality? I really want to start doing live streams and things. That would be really awesome to break down things like Shadow's House in real time with you. And we can even discuss and see what rabbit hole we end up falling down. Let's get to it. Louise and Lou are on a mission this week. It's nice to actually hang out with some characters. Louise, and even when it comes to Patrick, they're characters we don't really get to hang out with a great deal. They are under the influence of the coffee, so we don't really get to see them hanging out too much. For Lou, being forced to be kawaii constantly all day. Even if that wasn't via the use of soot, that would still probably get to you. I do think Louise's biggest trump card is the social butterfly aspect. It can get you anywhere. If you know how to talk to people, you know how to approach people, you can really start going places. You know how to talk to people, you know how to get that hook. Once you can hook it, you can talk to anybody. Louise's powers are making Lou sick. We have been warned as well by Kate that too much of this can actually break a living doll. Yet Louise is still doing it because Louise is going to highlight one of those attitudes this week that we see a lot of in this week's episode. The idea that it's just a living doll. This week's episode seems to highlight the way that the shadows feel about their faces. Whether they see them as a face or whether they see them as an extension of themselves. Big theme for this week's episode, underlying everything that we end up learning. We do get a lot of information. There's information coming out of my ears this week. One of the key things that I thought was very important. Anybody who gets called over to the grandfather's ward is never spoken of again. Christopher, all of this time I've been presuming that Christopher has done something bad and he's been cast out and we don't talk about Christopher. Could just be something as simple as he got invited to the grandfather's ward, therefore we don't talk about them because that's just how things are. All of this time I presumed that he could be the bad person, where actually it could just be a big red herring that he doesn't mean anything. Progressed into being an adult. All the adults who end up going to the grandfather's ward, nobody speaks about them again. I am a little confused how we still talk about Edward. Edward is in charge of their ward, but he's also an adult. Mary Rose is the first shadow to notice poor Lou's tired face. However, right now, Louise is on a mission, and one of her slightly negative traits, Louise does put herself first. She is first in her world. She does what she does. She's not tired, but it is a trait this week that really does get a lot done. We learn an awful lot. At the end of the day, we do get a very happy outcome when it comes to these two characters in particular. Alongside her, we do get a proper introduction to Benjamin, muscle fanatic. We also do get to see Oliver's invention. No bounds. Oliver's great. Oliver can get absolutely anywhere. He could create an entire gym if he really wanted to. Marvel at Louise and her social butterfly, knowing how and when to feign stupid. I will pretend I don't know what this machine is. Tell me about it. As soon as you get somebody talking and you get them talking about something they are interested in, you win. And that is the key to talking to anybody. If you can get that person to engage in conversation, start talking about things, they will just naturally start giving you information that you need. He tells us the invitations are basically secret. You don't really know that you're being invited. Nobody gets to know. I would love to know who carries it. Maybe it's Veiled Dolls. Maybe it's those guys. They end up giving you the information that, hey, it's time, you're going to be invited over. Really hoping that we do get to see somebody invited and hopefully we get to see how that occurs. When Benjamin states that if you're not strong, you cannot protect anything. This is a line that my favourite top husbando of the entire world, the king for me, he also says those words. So Benjamin unintentionally ends up gaining a lot of points from me for literally reminding me of my top husbando, and I love him to pieces. Understanding that if you can't have strength, you can't protect nothing, so you need to get stronger if you wish to protect things. I like Benjamin too. Benjamin is an awesome character. Also tells us that anybody can be invited, so you don't actually have to be a Starbearer, which I think makes sense because there's only 4 positions when it comes to the Starbearers, which would be very limiting if that was the case. The grandfather actually wants to have more good shadows at his side. Him really limiting it to only 4 people wouldn't really give him the best pool to choose from. A shadow with a high soot output or somebody who is actually very very useful. They may not make the cut of Starbearer because there's still 4 Starbearers in that position, but they could jump a rank, get promoted upwards. Louise ignores the second shadow this time to mention the fact that her doll isn't looking so good. I like Benjamin. Benjamin is awesome. There we go. I'm really liking this week's episode for all the information, all of the new locations, and we get to learn about different faces that we don't really get to see. With Shadow's house, there's so many characters going on. The entire cast is doubled because you've got their face and their shadow. At times, I get names mixed up, and for a while I was calling Benjamin Anthony, and it's Benjamin gains many points from me because he believes that if you can't do it, you too won't change. His idea about the living doll, they are both the same. They are one. You must train, they must train. This is very different from the way that Louise viewing her face. We see Benjamin carrying the idea that the doll is actually an extension of him, more than just a face. However, I do think that Louise is the one who would more likely get an invite out of the two, just because of the way that she thinks. Maybe Benjamin's idea of seeing his face as an extension of him and actually more than a face could be seen as soft. Maybe if the grandfather is this big baddie that I'm thinking he is, he's actually going to want to have people alongside him who don't care about their dolls and have no qualms in merging with them and don't see them as a different person. We don't know what type of shadows get invited. We haven't got enough information on the kind of people, the kind of traits that the grandfather even wants over with him. What is he even trying to do? We don't know anything about the man. He is a complete enigma right now. That's why I think with Shadow's house, a lot of things are a giant mystery because we don't know goals, we don't know motives, we don't even know what kind of things he wants. The happy resolve at the end of this first half is that Louise actually ends up asking Lou, how do you feel? And Lou deciding to take a brave step and stating, actually, I don't feel so good. Maybe we can have a lay down. Lou ends up realizing she needs to be better at conversing, whilst Louise realizes that she needs to be a bit more accommodating and allowing that because of the way she is. Let's go forward. Let's charge in all guns blazing. People get dragged in with her energy. She's not realizing that she's overlooking how people feel because they don't want to let her down. Lou doesn't want to get in her way of finding information. That means she also won't state, hey, I don't feel so good. To the second half with my boy Fushi from To Your Eternity. I'm getting my fill on him pre-next season. And yes, season 2 of To Your Eternity coming up next season. For now, we can deal with Ricky and Patrick, who are voiced by the same person. I decided to go ahead and do some research because it definitely works for them. Raising their profile worked for both of them. They end up gaining information this time on peers. These are the people who you end up debuting with. It is said that it is commonplace to lose touch, which I suspect once you've debuted and you start mingling with the entire house, that's definitely going to become a thing. We are also told that Mary, Rose and Barbara, the oldest, they've been there the longest. This connection is already confirmed in the OP and we've already had this suspicion anyway, so we know this is a thing. Peer groups all over the children's ward. Oliver's team, his team is made up of quite a few of his peers. So he's quite lucky in a sense that he debuted with like-minded people. They all work together. I also think from season 1 when we saw Edward, he was working with people who I think he was in peer group with. And I know you guys are told me to keep an eye out for number 4. But as I suspected from last week, John has been scolded. Him being scolded has told us even more information, that you need a petition to get married. Mind blown, because I thought he was joking. I actually thought marriage would not be allowed. I suspected it would be forbidden because it makes sense that the only person you really should love is the grandfather. But it did feel like it would be something that wouldn't really be needed in the grand scheme of things. Why would they need to marry? This week we get to go to the first of our new locations, the library, full of the grandfather's rules and the history. This is the one moment where I did also think about Promised Neverland. They both have libraries and I do wonder, are there secrets in this library, or is it more just the case the grandfather's propaganda, what he allows to be put out there, what he allows to be read, what he deems as okay information, because this would be a perfect place to have books from the outside world starting to break the illusion. But of course I doubt he's going to be that stupid. But the petition definitely makes full sense to me personally, because one pair could end up debunked if somebody doesn't make it, somebody doesn't end up progressing further. It's like Shirley, who ended up not making her debut. Imagine if somebody had gone, I like Shirley, here's my petition, and then she doesn't make it, and that petition, well, it's kind of useless if she's not there anymore. It also makes sense to me as well that the grandfather would need to okay everything. So if somebody does want to say, hey, I want to marry that person over there, the grandfather's got to go, well, no, actually, I don't think that would be a good suit for you. It would be interesting to see how much of a role he actually plays on granting people the okay to marry someone. That also makes me wonder, are there any married shadows out there? How many of the shadows in the main house are married? The idea of treating the living doll as an extension of the shadow comes about. This, I think, is the idea of preparing for the merging. I want to believe that if you consider the person you're with as an independent being, this would probably impact the merging and you wouldn't be able to merge properly. Like, I don't think Kate and Emilico would be able to merge. However, people like Louise, who are fine with making their face do things, are okay with seeing their face as just a face. I think someone like Louise would be very easily able to merge with Lou. I do wonder if attitude is the key to all of this. Another location this week is the conservatory and some new faces once again. We have Margaret, who ends up growing flowers. Margaret is sadly lumped in with the twins, and the twins right now are being punished, so they are technically public enemy number one right now. The twins are not viewed nicely. They have twisted, ugly hearts, which is something that we definitely saw when we met them before anything bad happened. They were bullying other people. They were tripping them up. Margaret doesn't want them to come back. And obviously, if they get taken out of the running, well, there's less people in that group to even have to fight against. It definitely works for her. I did wonder if she would be the one that Patrick would end up falling in love with, because they've both got that love of flowers. And the love of flowers apparently doesn't come from Ricky, him being himself, where he likes flowers. Him starting to think of Patrick as a different person. So at this point, he's falling into the camp with John, where they realise they're two different people. Ricky is the strategic one out of the pair, while the most strategic marriage would be you and Louise, because they're top of their groups. Is surprisingly not what he wants, and I am actually really shocked. Didn't put it together. I didn't actually think it would be, but Patrick's in love with Emilico. I don't know if this would be a taboo topic for a shadow to be in love with a living doll. The idea that seeing them as two is against everything that we're going for in this episode, where we need to see the doll and the shadow as one. Patrick is seeing Kate separately from Emilico. He's in love with just the face. As he states, this is a love that I could never reveal because it would probably hurt Ricky. Patrick is actually, in a sense, subservient to Ricky. Power play between these two. Ricky's actually the stronger of the two, and he's going to keep his feelings together. Sad, because I feel really bad for him. For the sake of Ricky, he's putting Ricky's feelings first, so he's probably going to try and buddy up to Louise, despite the fact that's not what he wants. With Kate coming in last, most likely not to progress, even though I don't think that's the case. It's too risky for him to even try and petition for her, especially when there's also John going for her, because now she has multiple suitors. It does make me wonder what would happen in a case where there's multiple suitors. Does the grandfather put a test for both suitors, and whoever wins gets to marry the girl? I don't know if things like polygamy is allowed in the house. Who knows? Maybe having multiple husbands is allowed, or same-sex marriage. Is this something that would be allowed? Because ED with Barbara and Mary Rose, they do actually swap flowers, and that to me looks like an exchange, a precious exchange made under the moon. Is it possible that they like each other and that's actually going to be taboo or something? I have so many questions, but this is finally the episode that gives me a lot of things to mull over. I now have multiple questions, but I've also got a lot more of an understanding on how things work, what kind of attitudes they're trying to promote. The fact that there is actually a library, that also makes me think of Promised Neverland as well, which is quite sad. I don't want there to be too many links, just because I think people hate on this anime unfairly anyway because of what happened to that anime, and I don't really want too many links in this. I really do like the information we're being given. I've got so many questions, and now I'm quite sad because I feel Christopher's never going to show up again, because technically he's just done what everybody else does. They've just graduated. Why am I even hooked on this anymore? He's just hot. He's gone. It's fine. At least he's alive, living in the grandfather's ward. It doesn't seem like he's actually done anything other than just graduated, and they can't talk about him because that's a rule anyway. There we go. Lots of cool things have come out of this episode. I've really enjoyed spending time with both Louise and Patrick. Characters we don't really get to spend too much time with, but they are still part of our main four. Four is important, I think, as you guys have been saying. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you're having a great weekend. Make sure you tune in again next week. Go check out the midway review. Have a good day, guys. Bye-bye.